This is a recap of what we had done yesterday night.
So I will start with my introduction first. I am Avilash. I am a SPA BM pass out. And I myself got a rank of 24 in the GATE exam. I started teaching students when I found that they were being exploited in the market very badly. So I thought I'd rather teach them for 1 rupee. And I'm very famous for teaching students at a cost of 1 rupees. I've taught more than 50 students for 1 rupee. When I could have made 5 to 6 lakh rupees, I just made 50 bucks. It doesn't matter. Most of those students have anyways ended up in the top 100. That is what matters to me the most. Now, what is the top 100? There are 10,000 candidates in the GATE exam. You have to get into the top 100. You have to get into the top 1%. How should your brain work such that you can get there? I have to push your IQ to a level of 140 plus. It cannot be possible if I make false promises. It is a very specific technique and a very specific method that you will have to follow. But by the end of the webinar, you would get an idea of how it is to be done. So as you push your IQ to a level of 140 plus, 140 plus is like the CEO level IQ or any strong leader of a country or anybody who's on the top of his game. They have a minimum IQ of 140. So if you are anyways at the top of your game, you will anyways end up at the top of the gate rank table. Now, there's a specific technique which you must absorb well. This is the NIIKE swoosh technique, as I call it. I've given it a familiar name so that people remember. In this technique, now the kind of questions asked in the GATE exam into 5 categories. They can be numerical questions. They are definitely knowledge-based questions. These questions are also having 3 levels of difficulty: easy, average, hard. For any knowledge-based questions, average and hard means either you know or you don't know. Simple. And slowly, GATE has moved from being an inference and IQ logic or elimination based question to pure knowledge and numerical based question. I have the analysis for that, I'll show you. Now, there are other three categories. One is the inference category, where you infer what kind of question or what kind of answer solution it might be. I follow the neural network technique for inferences that I'll show you. For IQ and logic, it's pure IQ logic. If you do all the 30 subjects of maths with me, which I generally do for free for if there's a large batch, I give them. I'll give you a logic. I'll give you an idea of it too in the class, so you can anyways crack the IQ questions. Elimination is the easiest, but requires a lot of IQ. If you eliminate properly, you get to the right answer. Some eliminations are hard. Some eliminations are absolutely easy. Now, for 2021's paper, when I analyzed the paper, I realized it was purely knowledge based. There was not much room for elimination. One, two, three, or four questions of elimination, a few two questions on pure IQ, three questions on inference, and remaining everything on knowledge. And suddenly at the end of the paper, you have only numericals. Now, this is a stress test, a psychological test of how you can take up 10 questions of numericals one after the other. So without further ado, let's move on to the jump over to the questions first. See, the first question says, as per the NBC, what is a automatic rescue device? Now, automatic rescue device, if you do not have proper knowledge, how would you know? So when I teach you construction in my classes, I would show you videos and completely take you through audiovisual method. So if you have a audiovisual technique, you will always remember, otherwise you will forget. So it's such a easy knowledge based question. Either you don't know or you don't know. If you know, you know the answer. Second, which among the following acronyms represent a thermal comfort index? Basically, they're asking there's a index or like a graph, something which represents thermal comfort, which is that graph. Now, they're all short forms. So you're supposed to know the short forms. For an architect who has only knowledge of thermodynamics, it's difficult. For an architect who's prepared for GATE and knows both thermodynamics and GIS, this is a very easy question. They can solve it in 5 seconds. How? Because NDVI, DM, PCA, if I show you the solution, they're all GIS. GIS would be taken up by Shubhadeep. Shubhadeep is my partner. He is presently representing India at an international stage. He is currently abroad. He would be returning by December, and that is when probably he is going to take those classes. He's a President's Medal awardee. So when he starts taking the urban classes, you would know why he's a President's Medal awardee, what quality he brings with himself. I do not have any awards. If this is the kind of analysis I do, just imagine what level he is at. Next, so these are very easy. Just either know or you don't know. But if you know, it's so easy. I'll give you a hint. Now, it was observed that over the years, 2013-14 had specific questions from NBC, 15 also. After that, there was a gap. After that, again, 2017-18 had questions from NBC, there was a gap. And again, there has been one question from NBC. So you can guess what the next one's gonna be. So whenever NBC comes, it comes at least in pairs or triplets. So you can guess. So this is how you should do your strategy so that you know what to focus on, what not to focus on. But NBC is such a huge subject. In NBC also you should know there's 1,000 pages of NBC. You should know which pages to read and which not to read. That only comes through experience. Definitely you can always take help from others if you wanna may take a shortcut. Moving on to the other questions also. Just before I do that, I'd like to draw your attention to this graph. See, there are different kinds of questions and different ways you respond to those questions. There are questions which are familiar to you, very familiar in green, high familiarity. And there are questions which might not be so familiar, but you can also respond to them very well. I'll give you both the examples. Let's say this one only. I just mentioned GIS. If you know the question, if you know the subject matter, it's highly familiar, and quickly you're identifying, oh, I know this is thermal and these are all GIS. So thermal comfort would be the option A, high familiarity. If you did not know, it would be low familiarity. You've never heard of the short forms, but somehow you would, if suppose you would have, then this would have fallen into that category. So depending upon your IQ, your brain, this would be category one. When you see those questions, you immediately go for the answer. Category two would be neither you know now can you respond to it. So this would be the last choice. You just leave that question and move on. How would you balance these two? Depends on your IQ level. Why? I'll give you a very prompt example. This one. It says, see, if you have not studied plumbing, you would quit this question, right? Just observe how easy it is. A wastewater pipe connecting two inspection chambers. Oh, this is plumbing. Oh, there's a slope. And again, there's an invert level. God knows what an invert level is. Forget invert. It's just a level for now. So there's a level, and they're asking what is the next level. If this is the slope, this is 450. What is this? That is all they're asking. So what did I do? I followed the main technique, the theoretical technique which is taught to architects, which is the most boring technique. Also because architects are not very good at maths. So there's a slope, there's a run. Okay, so 200 meter, for every 200-meter run, there is 1 meter drop. For every 40-meter run, how much would be the drop? So you can just do ratio proportion and get it. That is what I have done. I've got 200 mm. So it's a sloping pipe sloping downwards. So obviously if that's 450, this must be 450 minus 200, 650. Got the answer? Now, if you did not know all this, if you want to follow a different high IQ, 150 IQ techniques, I have always mentioned high IQ. I always guide my students to think at a high IQ level. This is just y equals to mx plus c. Let's say this is the xy coordinate, right? This is the line. At this point, what is the x coordinate? Let's say this is minus 450 y coordinate. What is the x coordinate? X coordinate is 0. So y equals to m into 0 plus c. But I know, okay, at this point, y itself is minus 450. So c's value is minus 450. So I know, okay, the equation would be y equals to minus m. What is m? What is the slope? 1 by 200. You just mentioned, right? For every one rise, there's 200 run. So that's the slope. X by 200 minus 450. You got the equation? Now you just look at the graph. You don't have to know, you have to know zero plumbing for this. Zero plumbing. Never even do it. But see, at this point, there's a 40. There's a 40 in the x coordinate. They're asking for the y coordinate, right? Because they want to know what is 450, 650, 750, 850, whatever that is. So they said, okay, you moved away 40 units. How much would you have come down? Just put the values in the equation, you get minus 650. That's it. For this, you need not know any plumbing. This is the high IQ, which means this was low familiarity, high responsive type of a sum, which requires IQ level, high IQ thinking. Low familiarity, high response. So if you are like me, with good IQ, then you can attempt it at the second level. This also can be number 2 to you, depends on your again IQ. Also, we have analyzed, but this is for in-house. I'm sorry, I can't show you everything. This is more or less for in-house, the different subjects and the description, the breakup of what subject, what year, how many questions. This is an extremely interesting breakup because this combines all the subjects in one graph. We'll keep it for a later date. Now, again, I'll come to another graph, another strategy. These are all strategies. So the class yesterday, which you missed, was full of so many strategies. I'll only be able to show you a few today. The correct sequence of stages. They are asking me, we are making bricks. What is the correct sequence of stages for firing burning? They are dehydration, oxidation, vitrification, cooling. Now somebody tell me, we are making bricks with mud or clay, right? You have vitrified tiles. Vitrified tiles is a raw material or a finished product that you can buy in the market. Vitrified tiles is a finished product. Raw material can be clay, silt, fine aggregate, cement, and with fine aggregate cement, you are making a finished product of concrete. Let's say, or it might be iron ore from which you are making TMT bars. So that's raw material. So definitely vitrified tiles are not raw material. So when you vitrify something, you get a product, final product. So that's a hint. So how can vitrification be the first step? So first you are making the final product and then you are working on the raw material. Wrong, right? So vitrification cannot be the first step. Gone. Option B is gone. Elimination. This is knowledge level 3 I've mentioned, but this is also elimination. Depends on your IQ. If you look at it in a different way, you can eliminate. Otherwise, you just have to follow this normal path and that will keep you in the remaining 99%. If you want to get into the unique top percent, this is how you have to do it, which means the top 100. Second, cooling. You're taking clay from riverbanks to make bricks, let's say, right? When you take that clay, is it at room temperature or atmospheric temperature, let's say 30, 40 degrees, 45? In hot summers, 48 degrees centigrade also, no problem. But is it at 5,005, okay, 500 degrees centigrade that you have to cool it down? Is it burning hot? Is it like molten lava? No. So it can't be the first step of a process. C can't be one. It can be dehydration, but cooling is a different thing. You're cooling it down after it is very hot. Gone. So B and D gone. So you have a 25% probability initially, now you have 50% probability. Still, if you make a mistake and choose the wrong answer, it's bad luck. But at least you gave it a try. You had a 50% chance of winning also. Now, so you know where the connections and how the connections are flowing. We can't flow. This is called a neural network diagram. It's not gonna flow this way. V1 and C1 is gone. So removed. Now D and O are the only dehydration and oxidation are flowing, out of which vitrification cooling is already frozen. This is another hint, a psychological hint that this might be the final one. So they've just played around with the first two options. When you do all 12 papers, you can easily find out these loopholes in the paper. You can just see and guess. You don't even have to solve. You can see the pattern and tell the correct answer, probable correct answer, because out of the two. So they move on. A and C goes forward. So VC is common, right? So we have dehydration, oxidation, this sequence, and we have these two in this sequence. So now you tell me logically, oxidation, how does it occur? Let's say I have an object. If you remember your chemistry slightly well, otherwise, anyways, if you practice with me, you will know. So if you do oxidation on an object, you have to heat it. It has to combine with oxygen. The opposite of oxidation is reduction. It has to combine, and then you get a finished product, a different product. When it oxidizes, the chemical combination changes, composition changes. So when you oxidize, you're heating it, right? Whatever water vapor was within it will escape. After that, after all the water vapor has escaped, what are you dehydrating? What? But if you are taking clay from the riverbank, you're laying it out in the sun. It's dehydrating, and finally, the dried up clay you're oxidizing at high temperature. Makes a lot more sense or not? So this is the correct answer through elimination with zero knowledge of construction technology. But for proof, I have mentioned, see how many times bricks have been given. So bricks is important now, you know, and they have given you the hints to that. But you have to analyze all 12 papers. I will discuss this. Okay, this one also. This also can be solved easily with a lot of IQ. They are asking you a bid rent theory. That's the theory in urban design. Subhajit will take up all this. But because let's say I'm not that good in urban studies, I use my IQ all the time instead of learning by heart. How do I do it? They are saying there's a distance from the central part of the city and there's a rental. There's a distance from central part of the city, there's a rental. Now, which one belongs to whom? I know the answer for this one. Retail is this graph, this is residential, that in between is manufacturing. Apply your logic now. Don't blindly follow that graph. Why is it so? At the center of the city, buildings are very expensive. If you are renting the biggest mall in your city, you will have to pay a lot of money. But if the biggest mall is on the outskirts of the city, the mall owner would earn less rent because people move towards the center of the city generally. They don't move out on the outskirts. And which way would they go? They'll have a lot of options. Towards the center of the city, there's only one center. So everyone goes there for shopping. So rent is very steep, which means beyond a certain point of the city, you won't have any demand for the shopping mall there. It's only up to a certain point. So center of the city, very high rent. Up to a certain point, the rent suddenly drops. So it has a steep slope. If you just look at numbers, see city center for retail, city center might be 10,000 rupees. Middle areas of the city might be 5,000. There's such a steep drop. Outskirts might be 4,000, and beyond that, there might not be any demand. Open a mall open the biggest mall in the city inside a village, and you tell me, will it run? Same logic. Let's say residential, who wants to live in the chaotic center of the city? Everyone wants to live in the peaceful green outskirts of the city. Outskirts of the city, I'm saying, and not village. That particular city where you have a green lush greenery and beautiful landscape. So there's a lot of demand on the outskirts also, but still the residential itself will be lower in rent than a commercial unit, because commercial can earn a lot of money. Residential is just expenditure. So it has to be lowest. So the gradient is also less. Now, if you are Ambani, you might be having a tower at the center of the city. Fine, but the tower would cost you a lot. But the tower, okay, their home is very expensive. But logically, any normal residential tower would be expensive, but not more expensive than a shopping mall. How can a house be more expensive than a shopping mall if you're paying rent for it? So the slope is less, much lesser than that of a shopping mall, which is retail is the steepest, residential is this one. I'm not discussing manufacturing now. I discussed in the webinar. Anyway, Subhajit is going to discuss manufacturing. It can be a dock, it can be an industry, but it lies somewhere in between. So that way you can easily choose the right answer through logic. Elimination anyway is not required, but if you want to eliminate, okay, manufacturing can't be the steepest, residential no chance. So this is possible, but there you have to make the choice: residential, manufacturing, residential. That's all. Just have to make that choice. But I've given you the logic for it. When it comes to maths, you see, maths is a vast subject. Most of you are scared of maths. If I just give you an equation of a circle, y minus 1 y minus 1 whole square plus x minus 2 whole square equals to 5 square or k square, whatever, or equation of a parabola. Most of you would be scared, but you guys don't realize it comes from a Pythagorean triangle. y2 y1 x2 x1. So difference, y2 minus y1 whole square is this one, x2 minus x1 square is this one. So obviously this will be this squared. That is how the equation of a circle also comes. But you are afraid of such things. APGP HP. How would you do valuation if you do not know APGP HP? APGP HP n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1. You would say, oh, I have to memorize. I would say, no, you don't have to memorize. You just have to know the logic, that 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and 4 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1. If this is the sum of the series, this is also sum of the series. So 2 times sum of the series equals to this number, but this number 2 itself is also a plus n minus 1d. From there you can easily get the equation. See, this 2 comes down below. If you add them up, there's n times of this number, n by 2, and if you add them up again, you get a 2a. Simple. N by 2, 2a plus n minus 1d, right in front of you. 5 seconds I derive that equation. But okay, I'll do all these things in class. But if you're weak in these subjects, it's difficult for you to answer. See, there's a logic behind every question. Look at this IQ level question, not in 2021, a previous question. But in 2021 also similar things had been asked. This is so easy, so easy. If you just know the graph, you would know. There's given vehicles per hour and vehicle per kilometer. This is a traffic curve. I'm not very good at urban studies. I don't know. And I don't want to know, because I don't need to know. It's IQ level sum. What is the slope of the line? Y by X. Vehicle per hour divided by vehicle per kilometer. Kilometer goes up, kilometers per hour. Obviously, it denotes speed. You had speed in the options. You could easily answer in 5 seconds without ever studying traffic studies. So that's how easy things are. K3, K1, anything to do with knowledge, I'm just ignoring them now because there's no point wasting more time. Now, if you are weak in graphs, I take 6 hours classes on coordinate geometry. I do not make you solve sums. I give you many examples across the entire spectrum of mathematical studies. See, I have studied mathematical books. You guys have studied textbooks of class. There's a difference. A mathematical book, entire number system might be an entire dictionary. You have studied number system in 10 pages and moved on to some other topic. There's a difference in depth. I will give you that depth. You need not practice anything as homework. You just need to spend time. That will create an interest in you. It will make you think why you are lacking in that knowledge, and you will strive to get that knowledge. Once you have that, gate is a part of life. It's anyways crackable. See, if you're poor in graphs, shear force bending moment is going to be very difficult. I have a non-scientific method for doing SFBM, non-scientific method, which means it fails beyond a certain point. These six can easily be solved beyond it, but if you are solving these six, it will take you 5 seconds to solve each. I'll give you an example, hopefully, if we have the question. So, non-scientific method and a little bit of maths can help you crack the exam. If I want you to add up, my students are solving these kind of questions in the class. This is, by the way, a JEE mains question. JEE mains question. But they solve it easily with logic. That's it. You just need pure logic for this. This is this kind of a logic. If I draw the final diagram, this is the logic. That's it. JEE mains question. People, if I tell them JEE mains, they will not do it. I don't know. They have a mental blockade. Without telling them JEE mains and encouraging them to do so, later when they realize, they are shocked. How is that possible? An architect is solving a JEE mains question. Anyways, if I ask you to solve you guys love to memorize formula without understanding why. So add them up. Add up these numbers. So if I take 1 square for 1, 2 square for 2, 2 for 2 squares, 3 for 3 squares, and 10 for 10 squares, right? What is the area of this triangle? If you do the area of the triangle, you get the total, right? 10 by 10. But area of the triangle is what? It's actually this. The last point is the diagonal, right? Uh, okay, I just messed up the drawing. Sorry. So you're drawing a diagonal through the last square. So this is half into 10 into 10. Plus, how many half squares do you leave? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So half into 10. You take half into 10 common, you get 10 plus 1. Instead of 10, if I just write n, as many numbers as you want. Half into n plus 1. This is how you should learn. I have a easy derivation for all of them. But what is the point? You guys have to bring yourself out of that cocoon of fear that I can't memorize, I can't remember. You don't have to memorize. You follow my process. Your IQ will anyways go up to 140. After gate, keeping your IQ at 140 is your responsibility. My responsibility is take you to 140. If you do not, if you're scared of these lines, see, these kind of equations bother architects a lot because they're not used to solving these things on a daily basis. You don't have to. It's like calculating short change. Like I've given him 10 rupees, he's gonna give me 4 rupees. So my product must cost me 6 rupees. It will be this careless, I mean this casual if you follow my process. So if you have this kind of this line is exactly the plumbing question which I discussed in question number 1 or 2. Plumbing 450, 650 question, right? This line, y-intercept, x-intercept, slope minus 1 by 200. Okay. Now, all of you architects, I want you to answer a question. I had actually offered a scholarship to 2 students last night who rightly answered this question that I have. I'm trying to hide the answer from my head. Okay. No. This question, if you just reverse, and ask them the area of the shaded region, they won't be able to answer. Let's say this is 10. What people do is they take this triangle. They first of all will take the triangle and subtract this quarter. I don't know why. It's if they had taken just that much, it would have been sufficient. Anyways, subtract the quarter and then they are unable to answer this length of this because this would be 10. Yeah, and this would be 10 again. and this would be 10 root 2. There will be funny things with this sum. But logically, if you just rotate the diagram, you will anyways get 10 root, you will anyways get half into 5 into 5 because it's anyways half of 10. So half into 5 into 5 is the area of the shaded region. This is what the kind of shaded region that GATE gives you. They expect you to be dumb and they expect you to have low knowledge of geometry. I expect you to be very sharp. So that this is the level at which I train you. So that you can anyways look at these questions and solve them mentally. Otherwise, if you cannot, how do you solve an acoustics question? Which is both mensuration, and then suddenly there's calculation of Sabins. So you need to be very smart. Speed, you see, I always focus on these 30 subjects. Always. You have to be very good at these 30 subjects. And zero formulae. Promise. Will not realize, learn any formula. Just logic, logic, logic. Nobody has taught you this level of logic in your entire life. You need to know because this is going to help you in life. So there are three subjects, three squares. You have to divide them equally so that they are equally divided into four parts. What are the four parts? Simple. Now this is basically a concept of LCM. I have three objects. I need to divide them into four parts. What is the LCM? 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. 12 parts I have received. Now most of the architects never are able to answer this. See, I got the courtyard diagram. I've been making courtyard for 5 years, but I can't distribute three objects into four parts. That is how our brain works. You have to retrain yourself. That's it. Again, they are knowledge based questions. These are so easy if you're good at geography, because I will share the link for the contemporary subject with you. A video is there. So if you look at the video, you will find that I am so much focused on geography when I teach you contemporary also, that anyways you would know the cities well. Once you know the cities well, and if you've seen this graph even one time in your life, immediately you'll know, okay, this is the blue banana, because the other two were anyways very far away from the blue banana. So I'll share the link with you. Again, when you're coming to earthquakes, let's say there's an earthquake, so they've given a question on soft story. How stiffness helps in soft story is like a stilt floor. How stilt floor can create weakness. But if I show you a video and show you how stiffness can help solve the problem of the stilt, see how bracing has changed the entire equation, and that is a base isolated model. So this will always help you remember. It has to be audio visual. I just can't show you a image of a paper and expect you to know everything by the end of the discussion. Also, when it comes to different kinds of waves, the very core logic of an earthquake, people do not know, people do not realize. Even when it comes to shear walls, etc., they are very scared. Now, if I do last few seconds, if I come to the aptitude part, you will see the analysis that I have run, but this is a very deep analysis, takes a lot of time to explain. For the analysis, there are so many types of varieties of questions from different subjects that we have combined. So it's not easy and not logical to discuss everything of aptitude today. And because today this is just discussing strategies instead of solving the papers, because there's no point. The same questions are not going to be repeated. So why do you need to solve 2021 paper if the same question is not going to come? So I'm giving you the strategies. With this strategy, you can solve any paper. So you have to focus on these things well. Next, see, this is a sum on acoustics. There's only one formula, RT equals to 0. Whatever. There's a constant x value, volume by absorption. Absorption itself is surface area. It has surface area and a constant. The constant itself is also given. So you need to calculate what? You need to calculate surface area. This entire sum, more than half of it, is just surface area and volume calculation. You need to calculate volume, right? You need to remember the value of this x, which is 0.16. It's very simple. If not, make a tattoo on your hand and that's it. So it's more or less volume and surface area, which I just showed you. If you're weak in maths, you will get scared. This is gonna bore you out. And also, all of you must focus on the last part. I'm gonna do 10 numericals logically very fast. Still, it'll exhaust you. Just understand or try to replicate the exhaustion you're gonna go through on the day of the exam when you have to do 10 numericals one after the other, non-stop back to back. And then if you just multiply the area with the alpha, you get absorption divided by volume, you get the answer. Very simple sum, but it's the first sum, so it was simple. Second, if surface conductance, okay, this is given in the the book which we will discuss in thermodynamics. It's so easy, it's just given, you don't have to solve also. It's like saying force equals to mass into acceleration, and acceleration equals to velocity by time. So I've given you mass, velocity, time, but you do not know what to do with it. That is what, if you are saying. So you just place the numbers in the equation, you get the answer. Second, okay, I give them the phone example. You bought an iPhone for 1 lakh rupees, and then after 2 years you're selling your iPhone for 20,000 to Flipkart. Let's say Flipkart's giving you a cashback. So you, after selling the iPhone, you need to buy a new iPhone for 1 lakh rupees. So you had started saving money from the very first day when you bought the iPhone for the next iPhone. So how much of value has been lost for the iPhone after 2 years of use? 80,000 rupees. So if you had to buy a new iPhone today after selling your iPhone, previous iPhone, how much would you have to save? 80,000 rupees. This is the sinking fund. And this 20,000 which you got back as cashback was salvage value. That's it. Valuation done. I'll give you a real life example. My students have told me that when they learn valuation, this is the easiest way in which somebody has taught them valuation, because I do valuation on a professional basis. I do not teach students and make money from their pockets. No, I teach them for 1 rupee because I have a constant source of income. This is my passion, and I want to challenge those institutes who are making money from students. So that's why I'm teaching for such a low cost also. So when I teach them valuation, I teach them very logically, 140 level IQ minimum. So that has a different effect on their brain waves. Simple, just take the remaining value, the amount you must account for, put it in the equation, and that's it. And even in valuation, there's just one equation which comes from APGP, basically GP. So if you know that one equation, you know all the formula. You don't have to memorize anything. This one is again so easy. You have a level and just use your logic. This is a scale. Scale will start from 0 at the ground and 10 at the top, or 0 at the top or 10 on the ground. If you're calculating height, you start calculating height from the atmosphere to the ground, or vice versa. From the ground to top, you start calculating. See our scale, which is showing 3.5, which was initially here. So initially, that level would have been much lower, something like this. So they've given you the difference in levels. I've calculated difference in level and calculated the difference in actual level. Done. If your concept and survey is easy, clear, then these are 5 second sums. I've given you the explanation video image. Now this one needs a little solving. This is basically two equations, and you just have to put I0 in here. You put these two in here, you get the answer. But logic is, you're sitting inside a vehicle, a truck is moving towards you, hits you straight, 10 kilonewton force, you're dead. But what if at the last moment the truck swerved towards its left and hit your vehicle, but you're alive? Why? Because the component of that force might have been 2, and the other component this way would have been 8. So you are safe now. So this component logic comes from trigonometry. This is cos theta, sin theta. Why? So that I'll have to tell you over 10 minutes, not wasting time here. But if you have this cos theta component, you don't have to memorize the sum. You memorize the formula. You know by default this is cos theta. What if this comes straight? Cos theta, theta is 0, cos theta is 1. So that way, logically, if you understand, it's very simple. And I've given the solution. Anybody has a doubt in the solution, call me up anytime, you will get the answer. So these are very simple things. These are also okay. This is FAR sum. There's a building, there's an FAR, there's a built-up area, there's an electricity bill. If you study theory, you would know, okay, amount of bill by area. This is also amount of bill by area. That's the formula. Very simple. And these are all N1, easiest possible questions. Yes, mechanics. I think this is the second last tough question in the. And even in mechanics, this you will have to memorize. Simple. This is only one thing in mechanics that you memorize, because the logic comes from integration differentiation, and I am pretty sure none of you want to do it. So memorize m by I sigma by y, but you will have to know what moment of inertia is. I always show my students a video of what moment of inertia is, how mass affects location of mass affects inertia movement. Just a second, I think I should show it to all of you. You see, there are two objects. There are two objects, both have a mass. One is the object mass has mass closer to the center, other has the mass away from the center. So inertia is like linear inertia, tendency to resist. rest or motion. He releases both of them. See which one reaches the endpoint first. See, did you just notice? So this is basically what movement of inertia is. But these things take a lot of time. We'll do it in class if at all. These are also very easy FAR sum. You see, tile, it's an area you have to place tiles. So I mean, this can't get easier. This is not estimation sum. No, no, no. This is pure maths. Simple. Change your wiring. Think in a simple format. FAR sum. 75% of x equals to something. So what is x? X equals to something by 75%. That's it. Get the answer. X equals to something by 75%. You get the answer. That's it. This one is very tough. Remember you remember Rutherford's gold foil experiment? 99% of all matter is hollow. It is only through magnetic forces that they seem like solid, where atom used to pass through the foils. Similarly, heat will pass through surfaces, right? In terms of photons, photons of heat or whatever light comes from the sun. Let's say photons of light, so they are carrying heat at the sensation of heat. So same logic. That's why you give weightage to the thickness. Now look at the unit which they have asked. Watt per meter square. You would know already. This is watt per meter, so it has to be a square. So I will have to divide by thickness. I will divide by watt per meter square, meter square, meter square, meter square. Also resistance. Remember resistance in series 1, 2, 3 add up. Electrical. See electrical. I just taught you gold foil experiment from chemistry. Now I'm giving you logic of physics. Again, in electrical, okay, in parallel resistances don't add up, they are individual. So when you combine physics and chemistry with architecture, you can find an interest in the subject. These things become very easy. Otherwise, no chance. This is such a difficult question otherwise. That's why again N3 very difficult for other students. But if you use physics, chemistry, your concept, atomic theory, all logic is clear. You will never have to memorize. Just K value, C value, U value, R value. That's all. Resistance, resistivity, conductance, conductivity, transmittance. These 6 parameters, if you know properly, you can solve. So we've come to the end of the webinar. Nothing else. I have some supplementary pages as proof of my students' comments, etc. My promises that I've made to students that I will help you no matter who you are. You can always call. I will always help. How my students have reacted to their successes, and also some of the feedback that students have given. Everything is on paper, just that if you are still not confident of you, if you cannot believe how somebody is teaching for 1 rupee, you will have the answer, because this is not something that I do for earning. I do it for my passion. I do it to help others. So that's how I have aligned myself, and hopefully if uh, my aim is to make India proud. You are also a citizen of the country, and you deserve to get good education at zero cost. But since zero cost is not possible for me, I generally charge 1 rupees. Or if you have the means, then we'll see. If you do not have the means, I will always be there to help you, because others will reject. They are for your pocket. I'm for your success. So that's it, guys. See you soon. Bye.